Imagine receiving the most devastating news of your life, and then having it cruelly twisted and made worse by the very people who are supposed to protect and serve you. This isn't a fictional horror story, it's the reality that two families in Nottingham had to face. On a day like any other, an unthinkable incident occurred that would forever change the lives of two families in Nottingham. Their children, Barnaby Webber and Grace O'Malley Kumar, were tragically robbed of their lives in a heart-rending incident. The details of this dreadful event are not the focus of our story today, but rather the profound shock and grief that enveloped their families. In the wake of Barnaby and Grace's untimely departure, their families were left to grapple with a reality they could hardly comprehend. The pain of losing a child, a sibling, a friend is a wound that never truly heals. It's a loss that leaves a hollow space in the hearts of those left behind, a void filled with questions that will never be answered and dreams that will never be realized. As they were trying to navigate through this ocean of grief, their mourning was interrupted and made even more unbearable. The concept of closure, if it ever existed, was ripped away from them in the most callous manner imaginable. The families of Barnaby and Grace were already dealing with an unimaginable loss, but the worst was yet to come. In the midst of their grief, the families were hit with another blow, this one coming from an unexpected source. As if the loss of their beloved ones wasn't devastating enough, a crude and insensitive WhatsApp message, shared by an officer from the Nottinghamshire police, added salt to their still fresh wounds. The message, it seems, was not meant for the family's eyes, yet it somehow managed to find its way to them. The language used to describe the killings was nothing short of graphic, and the tone was far from the delicate one you'd expect from someone tasked with upholding the law and ensuring public safety. Instead of providing solace or conveying information with sensitivity, the message came across as a cold, detached report of a crime scene. This incident, as unfortunate as it was, shed light on a glaring issue within the Nottinghamshire police: a lack of sensitivity and professionalism. The families, already grappling with their personal loss, had to deal with the additional distress caused by the message. The crude description of the killings, shared so casually, was a stark reminder of the insensitivity that can sometimes creep into professions that deal with tragedy regularly. But it wasn't just the families who were affected. The incident sent shockwaves through their community and beyond. It raised questions about the police's handling of sensitive information and their ability to empathize with the victims' families. It even led some to question the integrity of the force as a whole. What was meant to be an internal message within the police force ended up causing a public outcry. It was a clear example of how a moment of thoughtlessness can lead to far-reaching consequences, not just for the people directly involved, but also for the institutions they represent. A moment of insensitivity had turned a tragedy into a scandal. It was a harsh reminder that even in the face of tragedy, the way we communicate matters. It's not enough to just do our jobs. We must also consider the impact of our words and actions on those around us. The incident didn't just shock the victims' families. It sent ripples of outrage throughout the community. The chilling news spread quickly, leading to an outpouring of grief and anger. The act itself was horrifying enough, but the insensitive handling by the police added fuel to the fire, causing a wave of criticism against the Nottinghamshire police. Public sentiments quickly turned from shock to indignation. The community rallied together, calling for justice not just for the victims, but also for a change in the very system that had allowed such gross misconduct. The police WhatsApp message was deemed barbaric, crude, and utterly disrespectful. The community saw it as a blatant disregard for the victims and their grieving families. A stark departure from the empathy and respect they expected from those sworn to protect them. Social media platforms were flooded with posts and comments echoing these sentiments. People from all walks of life joined the chorus of disapproval, demanding immediate action against the officers involved. The incident had shown a harsh light on the police force, and the community was not ready to turn a blind eye. They demanded accountability, transparency, and a promise of change. The outrage was not confined to the affected families or even the local community. It reached further afield, resonating with people far and wide who shared in the grief and anger. The incident had touched a nerve, revealing an issue much bigger than a single act of misconduct. It exposed a glaring fault in the system, a fault that the public was determined to see rectified. This wave of public sentiment was not just about expressing anger, it was a call to action, a demand for change. It was a unified voice saying, "Enough is enough. a voice that would not be silenced until justice was served and measures were put in place to prevent such incidents in the future. In the face of such overwhelming public sentiment, it was evident that this was not an issue that could be swept under the rug. The community had spoken, their voices loud and clear, their message was resounding. This kind of behavior was unacceptable. Faced with a wave of criticism, the Nottinghamshire police had to respond. And respond they did. The force was quick to acknowledge the inappropriate nature of the WhatsApp message. Deputy Chief Constable Steve Cooper stood at the forefront, admitting the wrongness of the act and assuring immediate action. Yet reactions were mixed. Was this just damage control or a sincere attempt to rectify a grave mistake? The first to face the consequences was the officer who had shared the message outside the force. The officer found himself in the hot seat, facing a misconduct hearing. It was a clear message to all, a warning that such insensitivity would not be tolerated. Yet, some wondered if this was enough. After all, the damage had been done, the families had been hurt. A misconduct hearing could not take that pain away. Next, a special constable found themselves on the chopping block, dismissed for viewing inappropriate footage. The constable's dismissal was a harsher punishment indeed, but the question remained, was it proportionate to the pain caused to the grieving families, to the trauma they suffered because of the crude language used to discuss the murders of their loved ones? In the wake of this controversy, the Nottinghamshire Police found itself under the microscope. The Independent Office for Police Conduct launched an investigation, scrutinizing the force's handling of the case. The College of Policing also stepped in, initiating a review of the situation. This was not a one-off incident to be swept under the rug, it was a systemic issue that needed addressing. The police force's response was swift and decisive, but the shadow of the incident lingered. The insensitivity, the trauma, the raw pain of the families, all these remained, casting a long shadow over the force's actions. No disciplinary hearing or dismissal could erase that. The police had taken action, but was it enough? The question hung in the air, a reminder that the journey towards justice and sensitivity in handling such cases was far from over. The incident was a wake-up call, not just for the Nottinghamshire Police, but for law enforcement everywhere. The repercussions were swift and significant, leading to a comprehensive investigation by the Independent Office for Police Conduct, an organization dedicated to overseeing the police forces in England and Wales. The investigation dug deep into the systemic issues within the force, scrutinizing the practices and procedures that allowed such a gross mishandling of sensitive information. The review by the College of Policing further highlighted the need for comprehensive training and strong ethical guidelines in the digital age, where information can be spread with a mere tap of a finger. In the aftermath, the Nottinghamshire Police Force has taken concrete steps towards ensuring that such incidents don't happen in the future. This includes the implementation of stringent regulations on the use of communication tools, as well as regular training sessions to reinforce the importance of sensitivity and discretion in dealing with matters of this nature. Furthermore, the misconduct hearing for the officer involved and the dismissal of the special constable who viewed inappropriate footage served as a stark reminder of the consequences of such actions. But it's not just about punitive measures. Law enforcement agencies across the country are now recognizing the need for a shift in culture, one that prioritizes empathy, respect, and professionalism. They are fostering an environment where officers understand the gravity of their words and actions, and the impact they can have on the people they are sworn to protect. In the face of tragedy, the hope is that lessons are learned and changes are made. It's not just about justice for Barnaby Weber and Grace O'Malley Kumar, it's about ensuring that no other family has to endure such an ordeal.